Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to the edition of the In the Paint podcast. I'm your host, Earnest Christian, alongside, of course, the Degenerate again, Zack, Krizmanic. What's up? Second time on the pod, on this pod.
Yeah, man. I wasn't gonna miss a chance to say hi after taking the season from you.
Oh, in the NFL, right? Shut up, Kris. What's up?
Nothing much. Just enjoying my team's doing well. It's been a long time coming. So
Memphis Grizzlies. We'll get there in a second. Of course, this podcast, subscribe to the Earnestly Podcast Network on all podcast catchers. We're gonna do this every week in the paint, hopefully. I'm on Twitter, of course, E27. Let's discuss your team because one of the reasons why I want to do the podcast today, I actually didn't plan on doing this tonight until like probably a couple hours ago. I'm like, watching Ja Morant, what he's been doing the last especially the last 10, 20 games, man, incredible. They beat the Lakers this week. I think was it yesterday or the day before that? They beat the Warriors last night. Beat the Lakers on Sunday night, I believe. So they're racking up some really big wins. They beat Brooklyn last week. To the Grizzlies. We spoke last Kris on the show about the Grizzlies and the ceiling and all that. We're not now a week later. They've now racked up wins against the Nets, the Lakers, granted they're struggling still, but it's still Lakers and LeBron, and then the Warriors, the best record in basketball. And it got me thinking about the MVP because I haven't really had a discussion about MVPs with anybody about this topic since the season started. I mean, it's been Steph Curry with a bullet pretty much, but other guys we consider, especially too, but Ja Morant's got to be in the conversation, right?
I mean, he's getting himself there. It's easy for a guy who makes a ton of spectacular highlights, and finally he's getting his due because he's on all these highlight reels. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's just climbing into the discussion. He's still far from consideration.
He's not, so you're saying he's not in the conversation just yet? You got to see more.
It's when you start putting the numbers together and you see how much time he's missed. Granted, against like the top guys, he's only like 4 or 5 games behind them in games played, but it does matter. I mean,
I'm gonna here's his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, here's his last 10 games actually here. 18 points, 33 points, 41 points, 30 points, 36 points, 26 points, 22 points. He missed the Clippers game on the 8th of January. 16 points against the Lakers, and 29 points.
Ernest, here's all you need to know about his MVP candidacy.
Okay, go ahead.
Look at the time he missed, and you look at the record they had.
He missed 3 weeks, right?
He was out.
He missed 3 weeks, right?
He missed about a full month.
Okay.
Yeah. So he missed 12 games, and he went 10-2. And you could make it even sexier and go, at one point, he was 10-1 without him. You cannot have an MVP on a team that goes 10-1 without you.
If you look at the schedule, they played a lot of...
It doesn't matter. The Lakers can't even beat a good team. So when we're talking schedule, no.
So we're acknowledging Memphis is a good team now. We're acknowledging that they're one of a good team.
Yes, they got built from every position.
They beat a Sacramento team who's that bad. They beat the Thunder by 73 without him. Obviously, that's a fluke. I mean, just by the amount of points they scored on them. They beat a Philly team with no Embiid. I mean, all those wins have asterisks on them. So it's not like they're going out tearing teams up without him. They played their weakest part of the schedule without him and were able to survive.
But that's what I'm saying now. But I see your argument, Zack. Both of you guys, saying he's not quite there yet. And I'm with you. I get that. That's not to agree with you 100%. But what's changed? But for me, what got me thinking about this is like, okay, now they're beating the 110 in a row, number one. But it's not just like they're beating the 110 in a row. They're beating the best of the best in the league. They're beating Nets. They're beating the Lakers are Lakers, but it's still Lakers. They're beating the Warriors. They beat the Suns. They're beating the best teams in basketball. The streak.
And he's coming up clutch in all those games.
Yeah. And he's been the reason they won these games too.
All right, and that'll get him in the conversation, but it does not put him in top 3.
Okay, so he's not top 3. Top 5?
Yeah, top 5.
He's on the cusp of 5. Yeah.
No, he's solid 5. Solid 5 on my list.
Okay, in that case, then, since you guys have determined there is probably 3 or 4 guys that should be ahead of him, obviously we're not going to argue Steph Curry number 1, right?
No.
That's a run.
I think Jokic is right there.
The problem.
I think Durant 2, Jokic 3.
Durant
Harden struggled so hard,
that's the argument you can make.
Much early in the season.
Yeah, that's the argument. No Kyrie. Harden hasn't been Harden this year. That's the argument. But Brooklyn does feel underwhelming. They do a little bit.
They just have a lot of bad losses that you can't explain.
Right. Jokic, I agree. He's not enough love. I'm with you on that one. The problem is the 2019.
They have
you seen that roster?
No, I get it, but again, there's a rule I've had for years, Zach. You know this too, Kris. I think you know those rules too. You got to win at least. Okay, so I brought the bar down a little lower in recent years, but for a long time, my rule was you had to win your team had to win 50 games or more to be seriously considered an MVP. Now, I brought the bar down a little lower to 47 wins. Because one of the things I was saying about Kobe back in 06 is that the reason I said Kobe shouldn't have won in 06 is because of the fact that Lakers team won 45 games.
The point is, he's carrying a team without the number 2 and number 3 guys. He's having a better season this year than he had last year when he won. It's one of those things like when Steph won and then came back and had a better year, you had to give it to him again.
Right.
When Giannis won, then he had a better year the next year. You had to give it to him again. This guy with less talent is putting up better numbers this year and putting up just the stats are unreal for him carrying a team. Granted, the West isn't as deep as it once was, but he's getting them in the playoff push with absolutely nobody there.
No, I'm with you. Look. I acknowledge that Jokic is having a better year than last year, but what's going to hurt him is going to be the win-loss record, because that is one of the things that voters look at. Okay, how good was your team?
Numbers never lie. If he gets them into the playoffs, that's a big deal.
So
Jokic, if it's not in the play-in, like right now, what are they?
Right now,
could get a top 4 seed.
Number 6 right now.
Okay, they move up to 4. But by the time the playoffs roll around, you have to give him massive credit for what he's done.
But that's the thing. That's where Ja's at. Ja's number 4 right now.
I think as long as they hover in that 5-6 range, I think you have to lean towards him right now.
But that's the thing, though. You're saying that, but Ja is actually number 4 in the West right now. And dude, he's only, for all the talk about the Suns and the Warriors being great this year and obviously been fantastic.
Ernest,
they're only half games behind the fucking Suns right now.
That's how many games did they win without Ja versus how many games can Denver win without him?
I'm not suggesting that Jokic is not in the conversation. Don't get me wrong here. Jokic is having a better year than he had last year. But again, voters are going to look at that record first and foremost.
I think voters are going to remember that Ja missed 10 of those wins in that record. When you look at that win-loss column, he doesn't even account for 10 of those wins.
Okay.
I think in a lot of sports, especially in baseball, you've seen voters now geared towards the numbers than you do anything else. I mean, when you saw guys like Felix Hernandez win the pitching triple crown with a 13-12 record, you're not going to take that into account because the man just destroyed the entire league. It's not his fault his team let him down. Same thing with your boy in the Mets, Jacob deGrom. No matter how bad his win-loss record was, when you put up the stats, it's gonna show.
That dynamic of baseball and basketball is a little bit different, though. You don't impact. The impact is a little bit different.
Both these sports are all about numbers.
No,
all about point score.
But the win-loss total in basketball weighs heavier in that MVP race versus like the Cy Young Award winner, win-loss. The ERA,
he's still getting them to a above 500 record, and that's good enough. It's
Right.
not
No,
like
right.
that,
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
that's under 500.
Right.
Keep putting him into the playoff race by himself. That's good enough to be ahead in the conversation. When you look at the top statistical advanced stats, he is number one in player efficiency rating.
Right. So you guys say, okay, we all agree Steph's number one, run away, right? All three of us agree, Steph?
Yeah.
So number two is Jokic, you guys?
Jokic is ahead of him.
Wait.
I have Durant at 2 and Jokic 3.
Oh, wait. So, Kris, you have Jokic.
Jokic 1, Steph 2, and then maybe Giannis Durant tied there.
What about DeRozan?
Oh, DeRozan certainly needs some serious credit.
I mean, they're number one in the East right now, halfway through the year.
And he's actually played every game, almost every game this season.
The team's success is going to boost him up, but that doesn't mean the whole team is playing very good, and everyone is just playing better. So
I don't disagree that Durant, should be getting some love, but I don't feel the impact with Durant. I just don't feel it. And I get, Harden's been again meh. No Kyrie, but Durant has not stood out in the same way. Like even LeBron, last 10 years, stood out more than the Durant has.
He's playing a ton. Like
I don't know, man. 30 points a game, almost 10 rebounds a game, six assists. He's shooting over 50%, over 45 from 3. I think he's been outstanding.
I guess also the same thing I was saying with Jokic and Ja, the win-loss thing. Like Brooklyn's is number 2 in the East, but it doesn't feel like they're like world beaters.
Yeah, but he's Harden adjusting to today's NBA, no Kyrie, and he's still putting them up top. I mean, you can't deny his impact.
I am shocked though you're putting him Jokic at Steph though. Although I will say Steph has had some rough games last couple of weeks. Like you feel like for every great game he has, he'll have another like kind of like 2 for 15 night, that kind of thing from 3. Yeah,
but when he struggles, they lose. So
the value again, yeah.
I mean, still number 1 in like plus minus. Like he's unreal. So he's number 2 for me, but we'll see.
Speaking of Steph and the Warriors, Klay Thompson returned this past Sunday. 17 minutes, 20 minutes in his first game. And I think yesterday he had 10 points in his in less minutes than that. Have you guys been watching Klay last 2 days?
Yeah, just the highlights.
What do you think? Looks like, are you like, you see it?
I don't think he's gonna be ready till May.
I mean, when he plays, they're definitely force feeding him the ball, which I don't like because he's always been that. The best part about Klay is he understands he's Robin. So he lets the game come to him and he doesn't force anything. He doesn't call for the ball. They call the screens for him and they get him open looks, but he plays complementary team basketball. He's the ultimate glue guy, but when he's on fire, they get him the ball and make it happen. And no one can get as nuclear as he can get, obviously, because he's shattered every single quarter record.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's the best catch and shoot 3-point shooter in the history of the game. Like, even Steph's not as great of a catch and shoot 3.
Oh, no. Steph is the best probably shooter in terms. The reason I have Steph the best shooter of all time because he can create his own damn shot.
Yeah. But Klay, I mean, when it comes to just catch and shoot off of screens, I don't think there's ever been someone better than him.
I think him and Reggie, honestly. The only 2 guys I can put it.
If Steph was more one-dimensional, didn't have the ball handling, he would be better.
Yeah.
But doesn't have to do that. He can create his own shot. I mean, you see plenty of times when Steph, especially like on offensive rebound, they throw it out to him. He never misses. So.
No, I mean with Klay though, like I do think there's something to be said about that. I mean, he is playing less minutes though. He hasn't played more than 20. I think more than 20 minutes. So.
That's his second game.
Right. So I mean, forcing him because I feel like that because they want to get him comfortable in the small minutes he's playing.
They brought him in this early to give him 20 to 25 minutes a game here and there. Then he'll have the All-Star break to take off and see how the recovery goes from having that little time off. And then he gets back out there. So at the best, it's March or April when they get a real rhythm as a team with him being back.
Yeah, last night against Memphis, he had 14 points in 19 minutes. He was 5 of 13, 2 of 5 and 3. Let's see. The Sunday game. 1 second. On Sunday, he had a much better game, of course. He went. Yeah, he had 17 points in 19 minutes as well too. 7 8 from 18 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3-point. So I mean, you're seeing. I mean, if you did a PER on that, that's actually pretty damn good. It's almost close to the numbers he would put up.
His efficiency is a little down because they're kind of force feeding him.
Right. Again, right.
That go back. His efficiency will go up over time. Yeah, absolutely.
But based on what you've seen in the first 2 games, I mean, obviously there's a lot to be played and whatnot. You think this Warriors team is going to be even more dangerous now with him? You think he'll get back to close to double?
I mean, I don't think at this point they'll lose the number 1 seed.
Well, right now number 2, but the behind like a half game.
I don't see they're going to continue a groove and
yeah. I was encouraged though when I saw that play. He went to the ball on top of the key on Sunday, to the ball, straight to the fucking basket, dunked it.
Oh, of course.
That was encouraging because he wasn't just depending on shooting. He was actually being aggressive, and it's good to see that.
So we got to shout out Gary Payton Jr. for crushing it right now. He's really the reason why that team has been unreal this year.
Jordan Poole, though, he's also been unreal. He's shooting almost as great as Steph Curry and more consistent.
But Gary Payton locking down dudes and just playing complimentary basketball, and he's really showing out.
This Warriors team so much like I'm not gonna say they're better than the one with, but obviously, probably forget obviously Durant being the most obviously great, but the Warriors team without Durant when they won the first title and then won 3 games after that, like this team is way more athletic across the board. You don't think so? I mean, Gary Payton Jr. and
Bill was so high. I mean, with like Sean Livingston recreating himself and finding that role,
right?
Not to mention Iggy would be 5 years younger, 6 if you go all the way back to the start.
That's what
David Lee was a 20-10 guy back then for them, so they were very athletic.
Right. All right. I guess some injury news here. We heard today Damian Lillard out indefinitely. The Blazers have been a disaster this year. Right now technically they're in the play-in if the playoffs start today, 16-24 right now, but the number 10 in the play-in. Of course, and then also you have the news about Kris. You said a while ago on the text that Paul George will be out for the year, and they're right now the Clippers right now currently on the 8th seed as well. In the play-in at 500. Let's go Lillard first. Portland, obviously disappointing year with this team. CJ McCollum's out as well too. I mean, this team is just snake bitten, and I know Damian keeps saying he's going to stay in Portland, and that's the goal long term and all that. But is there any reason for him to come back at this point now with his team where they are?
No.
For the $50 million a year, there is. I would say that's the number one reason why he wants to stay in Portland.
Do you think he stays there long term? Do you think he will demand a trade at some point?
I think the team will do what's best for them, and they're not going to give him the 2 years and $103 million that he wants, and they'll find a way to. I think with Anthony Simons, like absolutely tearing it up right now in his absence, they can feel safer now, handing the keys off to somebody else and being okay with the future. I think if he does not show out the way he's doing and leading them to victories shorthanded, I think it's a different story. I think you're more desperate. But the way he's playing right now as a overall playmaker, averaging a ton of assists along with the points and playing pretty efficiently. Well, obviously, he's not shooting logo threes and making these highlights that people like to see, but the kid's balling out right now. And I think now they can finally feel safe with maybe moving on from Dame. And I don't think you ever could say that before.
Zack?
Well, one, I think Dame would in an instant sign the 2-year $100 million extension. And I think the moment he signs that extension, would demand a trade. I don't see him wanting to be there any longer other than for the money. But I don't think he's going to get that chance now. With McCollum out, he's out. I think their tax bill next year with just 4 guys signed to the roster is almost $150 million.
Really?
Yeah, it's insane. Because he's going to get 45 to 47. McCollum's near 40. Nurkic is, I think, 30 million or so. And then one other guy. I mean, the amount of money tied up in 4 guys next year, with everybody hurt, it's going to be a tear down.
And Lillard's probably the only person that of that 4 that is worth a value of worth the value.
McCollum's there.
Well, what's his contract right now?
He's not worth the money. He's a B star that got more money than he's worth because he's in Portland.
Well, correct. I agree with that. The Clippers, Paul George. We already know about Kawhi Leonard. It's a bad timing too because we heard reports a couple days ago that Kawhi Leonard was way ahead of schedule on his rehab, and then now this news about Paul George and possibly being out for the year. They haven't announced it yet though, but the likelihood is that he might miss most of, if not the rest of the season here. The Clippers are right now at 500. Obviously, if he's out for the year, there's no reason to bring Kawhi back right now at this point.
The only difference with the Portland situation about them easily going to tank mode and the Clippers going to tank mode is the Clippers don't control their pick no matter what happens, no matter how high it is, because of the Paul George trade. So there's incentive for them to do better, as opposed to with the Portland Trailblazers, they can use this as like their gap year, kind of like when Golden State made it to the finals and then completely missed the playoffs because Steph Curry got hurt, Klay got hurt, and they just tore it down, got top 5 pick. Portland can do that, make a Western Conference final, everyone gets hurt, you kind of just say, fuck it, restart. In their situation, that doesn't happen. So I don't know. They tried to, Paul George has been out for a few weeks now, and they thought, it's a baseball injury. He tore his, what guys have Tommy John surgery on his UCL. And they thought maybe it would just heal because it's more of a baseball injury than a basketball injury. But now they're figuring out that they're just under the impression, look, we can't expect him to come back. And if he gets surgery, he's definitely not coming back. So now it's like, what do you do if Kawhi got hurt super late in the year and might just miss the whole year? You give your young guys the playing time and see what you have there and kind of go from there, see what you have with Brandon Boston and Keon Johnson and hope you can develop your team and get these guys solid play. See if Terrence Mann's going to take that next step, because he kind of showed out in the playoffs last year and he hasn't really proven that he's that third guy. So I think that's all you can do at this point is just evaluate the roster and see who you can really build around. But, they can easily be sellers now at the trade deadline, just like with Portland. Portland looks like they're probably just going to start selling off whoever they can and trying to recoup some draft pick or just shed some salary cap and recoup whatever they can get. And I think the Clippers might try going that mode too,
Zach, what's the Clippers do?
Oh, they need to trade whoever they can. Just clean it all.
Outside Kawhi, of course. Yeah.
But you know who's excited about this injury? It is Kawhi. Because that report came out to try and make it look like he is a team guy trying to come back to help his team because his image says otherwise right now when it comes to injuries. So now he doesn't have to listen to questions later in the season. Are you almost ready? He's not. He's not going to come back. And so he'll get paid for a year of not playing. But props out to Paul George to do what he did with the Clippers for as far as he got them before he got injured. I never expected that.
Well, you saw Los Angeles last year in the playoffs too when Kawhi went down in that second round series against Utah.
Yeah, but that's a series against one team. To see him do this for the season, in and out,
Oh,
Totally different.
He's certainly changed the narrative, though. The playoff Pete thing and the all that, and he's changed the narrative a little bit now since last season. I will say that.
well, the pandemic was real, but he's been having MVP type seasons ever since he got traded to OKC. So I mean,
yeah,
all-star level for sure.
I agree with you guys. Both teams, especially the Clippers, need to stare it down around the core. Portland's issue is a lot more dire because it's not just
Portland's got to get rid of everybody.
It's
trade whoever you can and get whatever you can get.
I mean, to be fair, it is a great basketball town. They love their team. They're supportive. But I mean, 4 guys tying $150 million in cap room.
Yeah.
Yikes. And then Damian Lillard. I mean, that's say Lillard can't stay healthy. It's just that the timing is bad on all this. So I don't know. But one team's on fire right now. That is the Philadelphia 76ers. They won 7 in a row. We were talking about teams on top of the East. Who are the best beasts of the East? Obviously the Nets, the Bucks, of course, the champs. Obviously the Bulls had a great year. The Heat always hanging around. Philadelphia has been like, especially with the Ben Simmons saga, they've been kind of like a has-been kind of like team treated as such anyway. But they won 7 in a row. Are they? Is this aberration? Do you think this is a real thing? Could they be counted as a team championship title contender? I guess you want to call it.
No. I don't care who they even trade for right now at this point. They're at best getting past the first round. That's what they are.
The problem with Philly is with this situation, they have the leverage because right now Ben Simmons is technically just being like they're withholding his money. So it's not like Ben Simmons is playing and earning his money or even eligible, just essentially just suspending him or fining him for every game missed and not paying him. Mm-hmm. So he has no leverage at all because if he doesn't play, he doesn't get any money. So it's essentially like the Le'Veon Bell thing where Pittsburgh said, go ahead, sit out the whole year, see what happens. And then look at what his career has turned into now at this point. Yeah. So he has no leverage at all. And Philly's stance is we're not going to trade you for less than you're worth. And this is a guy who gets boards, he gets assists, he makes plays, and he plays insane defense across the entire, but 1 through 5, he can lock down anybody, which that versatility is in today's positionless basketball is as valuable as it gets. People don't
Kris, that might be true, but if you're making a trade with Golden State, how many people are you asking for before you get to Draymond Green? Because that's all Ben Simmons is. He's Draymond Green.
No, because
and he's not even as good as Draymond because Ben Simmons is afraid to shoot. Draymond may not be able to shoot, but he'll take shots.
Draymond shoots. He's actually
he's a terrible shooter.
He had one really bad year where he was looking scared to shoot, but he's rebounding. He's actually shooting at a better clip now. So
yeah, but 35%. I would not call it good shooting, but he's at least taking it.
Great. Are you kidding me?
But if you're calling up Golden State, you're wanting Curry first. You're now wanting Klay Thompson. You're probably gonna want Weissman or even Wiggins before you'd ask for
Draymond's very specific to that system.
That's what Ben Simmons is, though.
No, it's not. He could make a difference on any team.
Who's Simmons?
Yes. The only difference is his floor spacing might be off a little, but when you surround him with the team that necessary with a 5 that can shoot like Embiid and a bunch of floor spacing guys, I mean,
the problem is, Kris, that's a big deal though.
So you got to build a team around him.
I don't think you have to build a team around him, but he'll make it work. The problem is he can guard any position and lock them down at a first all-NBA team defense level.
That's his real values defensively, really.
And his vision.
No team does, or they might be calling up trying to trade for him.
No, they are calling him up. The problem is Philly's asking for the world, and they won't stand down from that because they kind of want to stick it to him. I think it's a way for them to say, hey, you don't want to play? That's fine, but we're getting our money's worth. And No one's going to give him that trade.
And they're winning too because they're not paying them anything. So really, it's a win for them because
maybe they're resetting their tax bill at the same time.
The problem is you're wasting a prime year of a guy who's shown to be very
moody,
unavailable when it comes to Joel Embiid health-wise. So do you want to risk wasting one of his best years ever where he's playing 75% of the games and you to go deep in the playoffs? You need that superstar next to him. And if it ain't going to be Ben Simmons, you have to get something back. So at this point, it's whether or not what package they're going to take for him. They have to get a deal that works for them.
I'm just more in the belief that while the Sixers have the power over Ben Simmons, how many organizations are out there wanting Ben Simmons? How many teams are really calling up saying, hey, I want Ben Simmons here on my team?
I'm sure their team's calling him, but I think the amount of, I
if they're calling, I think they're trying to get him for cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not calling him because they think he's really that great.
It's the baggage. It's the baggage.
They're going to nitpick to him until Philly caves. Everyone's waiting for Philly to cave, and I don't know if they will or not. Daryl Morey's that dude. I don't know if Daryl Morey and Elton Brand. I don't know if they're ready to cave yet, but they might. I think it comes down to knowing. I think it's going to come down to Embiid walking into their office and saying, "Look, I really think we have a legitimate shot. Seth Curry's playing unreal. Tobias Harris is playing his standard ball.
Right.
Thibault's coming and killing it. We have the pieces. Get whatever fits the team to be successful. The problem is like his salary's huge, so you have to take back a big salary. They probably don't want to take on some albatross. So there's so many pieces to it that it's hard to put it together. But I'm sure if they want to, they'll find a way.
So if there's a team out there who would, where does he fit best? You think what team he fits best?
I don't think it's what team fits him. I think it's what team has the pieces that Philly wants. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. It's not like he doesn't have a no trade clause. So he can't dictate where he goes. I think it's whatever Philly's willing to settle for, and then that's that.
Do you think the Warriors bite on this finally?
No.
Okay. But I was out.
The Warriors don't want him unless they're switching out Draymond for him. That's it.
I think they're just too good to to disrupt that.
Right.
It's going to be like some middling team like Sacramento who wants to stir the pot up and say, here's Buddy Hield, who'll be a great shooter for you, and maybe pulling the trigger on they're going to want
he would work in say Denver or Utah with all the 3-point shooting.
What about Cleveland?
No, they don't have the pieces. I mean, it's just they have a lot of big men talent, and Philly doesn't need that. I mean, a guy like Kevin Love could certainly, him and one young piece, but they're going to want too much for him.
I don't think Cleveland would want to disrupt what they have, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Sacramento, a team that's just been stuck in a rut for years.
Sacramento will make the trade just to see what happens with the team, not even caring about fit.
There's really no risk for them at this point.
That's what I'm saying. Like, have a bunch of pieces that have never worked for so many years that they're just going to do something to shake it up. Like a team like that is going to be a team, or if a guy like Tibbs could figure out a way to insert him because he's enamored by his defensive capabilities.
There you go. Send Kemba Walker to Philly.
Not gonna work. They're not gonna want him.
Are you guys surprised this has lasted this long? Like this whole saga's lasted.
I'm surprised that Ben Simmons hasn't caved. I'm surprised that he's willing to sit out millions and millions and millions of dollars.
And I think Ben Simmons would have been traded had he already come back. If he just showed he could get on the court again, I think it would have made a difference.
I think he would have. I don't know. I feel like they want the world, and until a team, I think Philly's playing hardball with every team, seeing what they can get, and then finally at the trade deadline, which is coming up, they're going to settle for something. I just think there's no way you waste Embiid's prime right now.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. All right, before we get going, this is something that popped up. I saw today that rehashed. Steph Curry, I guess, rehashed the long debate that we had about 5 years ago about the 96 Bulls and 2017 Warriors. He had said back 2017 that he believes his Warriors team that had Kevin Durant at the time, by the way, for the record, would beat the Bulls, 96 Bulls, who won 72 games, will beat the Bulls in 6 games. Recently, he had rehashed that argument again, saying and doubling down, saying that yes, we would beat the Bulls. That team beat the Bulls in 6 games. So I ask you guys, I mean, I know Zack and I we're the same age, so you obviously saw this in real time. Kris, I think you maybe saw in real time too, 96 Bulls.
Yeah.
You watching? Okay, so let's have a debate now. Which team will win a 7-game series, the 96 Bulls or the 2017 Warriors?
I think the Warriors.
Okay, no, I can see the argument. Why the Warriors though?
The shooting. I mean, in the end, it's all about shooting for the Warriors. So you can we could go back to 96 league rules even, and it doesn't matter. Their ability to shoot just levels the entire playing field. So if Jordan's having a bad game, which he does every finals, or Scotty isn't putting up enough points, which he almost never did, they just wouldn't be able to score and stay with them.
Here's my question, though. When did the hand-checking rule stop? What year? Remember? Was it 98, 99?
I thought it was like early 2000s.
Right. I feel like hand-checking will probably be a benefit to the Bulls, actually, with those shooters, because they always trapped all the time.
Yeah. But that would be their only saving grace. But when Steph can step back as far as he can, and Klay, the condition he was in, to just constantly come off his screens.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I kind of see where you're going at. Let me hear Kris's his view on this whole thing.
I mean, you gotta believe that a team would adapt, and those guys would be shooting better from 3-point land. But I mean, when you see the roster of that team,
which team?
The Golden State team, like,
right.
It's hard, and you have guys like Iguodala, who you could solely he would have to exert zero offensive energy to be able to defend Michael Jordan.
But he matches up perfectly, physically, lengthwise.
Like, you had guys like Pippen was the best defensive player on that Bulls team. I mean, minus like Rodman, but he still had to produce on the offensive end. You don't need offensive firepower from Iguodala. Like, he could just strictly play defense and not have to worry about exerting any energy on the other end, while you have Steph and Durant and Klay and all these guys just raining down on them.
No,
Here's a real question for you, Kris. Who would get kicked out of a game first, Dennis Rodman or Draymond Green? Because they're going to be playing each other, defending each other down in the post for the rebound.
Who has more self-control of the two guys is the question.
I think Draymond, but
I think Draymond gets kicked out first.
Going based on headspace in 96 versus headspace in 1917, I think Rodman gets kicked out. Rodman's headspace in 96, 97, 98,
yeah,
got worse actually too as the years went on.
Exactly.
I'm kind of with you on this one too. Also, 17 Warriors in a sense, because as you said, the key thing you said there was the Iguodala thing. Like, that's his sole role. I'm going to take your best guy. And the thing about stopping Jordan, it was never about stopping Jordan. It was about making him work. Yeah. So even if Jordan scored 33 points in the game, you take that if he's inefficient.
And then who's Jordan going to cover? Is he going to chase Klay all night? Or is he going to have to defend almost an entire half a court against Steph?
And here's another thing too, also a big thing also too here. Like, typically, the big matchup here was that Pippen would play the point guard to disrupt the flow. The problem is you need Pippen to guard Durant. If you put Pippen on Steph Curry to stop the ball up front, who's guarding Durant?
Yeah, Ron.
Huh?
Ron Harper.
He'll get destroyed. As good as Harper's a really good basketball player. He was a really good basketball player, very underrated basketball player. Okay.
He's 6 inches shorter than Durant.
Exactly. He got destroyed by Durant in a heartbeat.
Well, the problem is that the team was so unathletic up front. Like Luke Longley and Bell Wennington are just not playing. They're not even seeing the court because they're going to stretch them out. So those guys don't even see the court. And as little as Luke Longley was, he was still an impact player. So now granted, they have a guy like Dennis Rodman who could play the 5 easily and defend almost every position.
He couldn't. He might guard Durant. If anything, Rodman might guard Durant in that spot. But then your middle is kind of paint's open.
You could have matchup issues with like who's guarding Tony Kukoc and whatnot. Like I guess Durant probably is, but I mean, the game has changed so much. It's so hard to put these other era teams with them because the game is so different.
I think the rules will be the key. I don't know which rules we're playing under. Are you playing under the 1996 rules where handshake is allowed and all that? Or are we playing under the current day rules where it's a free flowing basketball?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like you could take Golden State's team back to the 96 rules, and that'll just allow them to play a better defense. Because now what? Livingston and Iggy, they can now hand check on top of just swarming you.
And size.
Yes. So, I mean, to go back in era, I think it helps any guy from a future era. Because those rules have already been bent for the future era.
That's a good point. I think we're in 7 though. I have to give Jordan respect to get the 7 games.
I don't know. That Warriors team was so deep.
Yeah. It's funny that Warriors team went 6-7-15. People will say, well, worst record in the Bulls in 72, but that's 5 games. I mean, come on now. I mean, we can contextualize that a little more in detail. And
yeah, in those 67 games, that was like the record when the Celtics had it, 67 or 68, wasn't it?
No, well, the record was 69 in Lakers, and then
69. All right,
beat that 72, and then the Warriors in 73. Yeah, I have a hard. To me, what stands out because it's easy to say, oh well, no, they have Michael Jordan. No. Okay, fine, we get that. I watched Jordan in his heyday. Trust me, the guy was fantastic. What you hear about Jordan is even it is true. The guy was fucking changed franchises and broke hearts and all that. Depth is where I think is the big difference here.
Like
depth. You mentioned it.
We're doing work off the bench, like Patrick McCaw, Sean Livingston, like those guys are straight gunners off the bench. Like at any point, any one of those guys could easily drop 20. All of them could drop 20. So they're a really deep team. And you still had JaVale coming off the bench. So like if you needed a big, he was there to dominate. I mean,
Jeb Booster's not fucking stopping Sean Livingston. Sorry, ain't happening. Let's stop. Like, look, that Bulls team is fantastic. It is probably singly the best team ever, probably. But in a 7-game series matchup, I have a hard time. I'm hard pressed. It's a numbers game. Warriors have better players across the board on their roster than that Bulls team does. The Bulls, after you get past Tony Kukoc, it gets a little. I mean, so your big 6 in the Bulls is what? Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Kukoc, Ron Harper.
I think it goes Jordan, Pippen, Kukoc, Rodman, because Rodman was such a one-way player.
Yeah, I'm just saying in general. I'm just saying guys who are their core.
That was it. Rest falls off the cliff. Yeah.
Right, and I give you Steve Kerr because his value was big to that team. Okay, he did one thing going right. That's it. The Warriors. You have Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, all stars. Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala. Who was the center on the team? Was it
Draymond's the center.
Oh, that's right. They did do that. Yeah. There's more guys on that roster. Jamal McGee.
Yeah.
They had guys that were really good NBA players that can impact. You say Jamal Green, whatever, he's not whatever. You put Jamal Green on the Warriors, though, it's more impact. Put Jamal Green on the Sacramento Kings, he's lost, never be found. Put him on a championship team like the Kings or in the Bulls, doesn't matter.
For teams of today to like older teams where it wasn't like that.
Right.
So, like, if you wanted to compare the 16 Warriors the year before without Durant, I think that would be a little better because that team, the 16 Warriors team, was a homegrown team.
Right.
And
I actually had the debate one time.
And that Bulls team was homegrown. They drafted George. They drafted Pippen. Like, they signed Tony Kukoc. Like, those are guys they brought in. Obviously Dennis Rodman, that big free agent, but besides them, like, that was a more homegrown team. So I think that's a team that you should compare them better to, as opposed to like 17, where like at that point, once you sign Durant as a free agent, now it's a super team.
Right. I think Zack left. Hold on a second. Let's go find him real quick. I'm gonna call real quick. No, I'm with you on that one. That makes sense. I actually did have the debate one time on the podcast years back, just out of curiosity, when they were talking about the record and all that. And that team, the Bulls are beaten in about 5 or 6 games, because when you limit Durant out of the equation, Durant is literally literally bringing 30 points to the field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to account for that. It's a lot to account for there.
But you got to remember, this is like prime Draymond, where that 1-5 screen, like, pick and pop combo they were running was at that point undefensible.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sitting there. I mean, you got to remember, in that season, Draymond Green tied the most three-pointers made in the finals game 7 of all time, which was 6. Like, he was a big-time player then, super confident. So there's a lot that goes into that team, and, like, who's going to stop him? I mean, I get, like, Rodman's going to play the 5, but you're taking a lot of offense off the court when you have, like, when you take Luke Longley out there, like, it does actually impact their numbers. Like,
yeah.
The problem with the big man was such a big deal back then, and it's not, but yeah, it's a much better comparison when you put that team up there.
Oh, of course. Because then at that point, then you were looking at matchups. Okay, you're looking at so
yeah, now you can have Ron Harper chase down Steph Curry all game long.
Right. Iggy would probably play Jordan, most likely.
Yeah, of course.
Klay. I mean, or Klay could get spots at times too, but you don't want to run him out either. Getting for shooting and all that, that'd be. I've always said that the 16 team was much more a better argument to comparison to the 17 team, because I mean when you add Kevin Durant to the mix, it's not even fair.
Yeah, of course.
It's not even fair. The guy's in any era he plays in, he's a matchup nightmare.
He's what you call a true unicorn. You'll never find a guy that's that coordinated with the handles at that height. He's undefeated. Who's blocking that jump shot? Nobody in that league is blocking that.
Not even Pippen. As big as Wingspan was, there's no way he'll stop the jump shot. So yeah, we all agree 17 Warriors will win. I say 7 games. I guess you saying 7 as well? 6, 7, remember?
5 maybe.
Oh, come on now. Jordan can win a couple games on his own. This because it's Jordan.
No, not against that team. That team's just too stacked. Like, I hate comparing super teams because it's like a cheat code. Like, that wasn't around back then.
That was
you beat a team. And if you want to ring chase and do all that, that was way past your prime at that point. You didn't have dudes coming together in the prime because they wanted to be the man and win.
Right. Anyway, Zack is gone. I guess he's not coming back because either his phone died or something. So he's on Twitter. FSU know it all. Kris, when are you getting Twitter? When are you getting Twitter?
I'm never getting on Twitter.
Why is that?
I don't know, social media,
You're really on Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't on Instagram, are you?
No.
I tried to tag you.
I'm happy with that.
I tried to tag you one time on Instagram for the show, and like wait, what's Kris at? I can't find him. What the hell? It's crazy. So I guess you follow Kris here on the show when he pops on. I guess thanks for coming to pod. I appreciate it, man. Zach, unfortunately you left. I mean, it is what it is. But till the next one, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good job, man.